Hello, friends. Welcome. So it looks like Utah Mike is the first one to join us here this evening. Good evening. Welcome. We'll wait a couple of minutes to give everybody a chance to get here. I know notifications go out. In the meantime, a little bit of optimism, pessimism, realism, whatever. This time last week, we didn't know who the president was going to be. Gosh, he took all 7 of the swing states. I guess, when I look back, one of our worst presidents was Jimmy Carter. The guy, I really, really liked his intentions. An extremely benevolent and honorable man, a brilliant man, science-wise. Good evening, little lone prepper. But anytime we have kind of a bad one, then that pendulum swings and we get somebody good. As a result of Jimmy Carter, we ended up with Ronald Reagan. So I think that was a phenomenal shift there. As a result of Barack Obama, we ended up with President Trump. And then as a result of Trump, we went to the other extreme. Once again, there's this continuum in life that is constant. We never seem to find momentum in the center. It's always one extreme or the other. So we went from President Trump to President Biden, and now we're back to President Trump. So that pendulum is constantly swinging, and we just cannot find the middle ground. I hope we do sometime in the near future. I really hope we do. I hope we find a way where we as a nation can be unified, where we can have, it's okay to have differences of opinion, but gosh, people are hating each other and not talking to each other and being vile with each other over who you believe is the right choice to lead the country. That's, I don't know. I think we need to find a way to be September 12th, 2001. On September 12th, 2001, I think that was the most unified I've seen our country in my lifetime. So, but we need to find a way to get back there. Some civility, some kindness to each other. Now we can disagree. It's okay to disagree. We certainly have to get rid of all of the hyperbole that's going on and all of the stochastic terrorism, which is calling people such vile names that other people feel that they have a responsibility to take vile physical action to denude the other side. That we've got to get away from that. We've got to find a way where we can gather around, have a discussion, take a vote, and do something we figure is going to be good for the country. So let's get here and see what we got. Utah Mike was the first. I saw Triple G, Little Lone Prepper, Phaoxerus, Holly Ivans, Triple G Farms, Pete, welcome. Let me see. Yeah, that's really strange. I don't understand that, Utah Mike. But and we've still got some congressional seats in the 4A as well. What's the astronaut's name? That's a senator from Arizona. Gosh, he came out with some hyperbole that was just. We don't need that. He was calling some really bad names, and we can do it without all the name calling. Let me see who else. I think I saw Holly Ivans. Yes, KP Heathen from Louisiana. By the way, you have one of my favorite senators, Senator Kennedy. I just love that guy. He has a way of talking that's just unbelievable. Diana too, welcome. Cats and Prepping. And that looks like that's it for right now. We've got 13 people watching. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. I invited both of the prepper groups to which I belong here in the local area. Don't know if they'll show up or not, but I did invite them and tell them that we do have discussions on a regular basis. I am seriously considering adding back Wednesday. Tucked by V, good evening, welcome. I'm considering adding Wednesdays. We used to do Monday, Tuesday, but I'm teaching the class on Tuesday evenings now, so we had to give up our Tuesdays. I'm thinking about adding it back on a Wednesday. So if you all want to have kind of a free-for-all discussion on Wednesday, then just let me know and we can get that done, because you guys have such great chat. I mean, there's so much we can add. And then, of course, if we have a real good discussion going, I'll put the link out there and you can join us and be on, show your face and say what you have to say. And that would be fantastic. I mean, having a decent, respectful conversation where we can say, what are we going to do to live together? Okay, so you didn't ask, but I'm going to answer anyway. Lee's predictions. I personally think that the deep state has got to get rid of him, and they're going to do everything they can to do that. It would not surprise me if they don't continue their lawfare, that's using the law as warfare, that they aren't going to try to pull one or two tricks, that there might even be one or two more attempts. I guess, just there's some strange stuff going on. The terrorists who are here in the country, and we know that there's thousands of them. Once we close down the borders, which is going to happen, basically the day that President Trump is inaugurated. So I think that's the 20th of January. Then the terrorist groups know that they won't be able to get any more soldiers into the country. I would look for activation of the terrorist groups sometime around that time frame. It would not surprise me if they aren't a day or two prior to, the day of, or a day or two after the inauguration. I think President Trump is very well aware of that. And that's why he's trying to get his cabinet in now, is because we have that kind of, all the old guys are leaving, the new guys are not quite up yet to snuff. And so we kind of had this pivotal period right there around inauguration where the responses aren't as cohesive, as fluid as we would like for them to be. And that's going to come with a little bit of time in office. So I think that's one of our low points as far as having a cohesive government is going to be, well, maybe the week before, day of, and then the week after inauguration. So that's going to, I would say, look for some weird stuff to happen during that time frame as well. Simon Templar, good evening. Welcome. Yes. Really, Pete? Wow. I saw that he said he would not put Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo back in his team. And he did good words about both of them, but he thinks Mike Pompeo, he was top of his class at West Point. I mean, the guy is brilliant. He's great at what he does. But I agree, he's probably a little bit more action-oriented than the president would like. And the same thing with Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is kind of a more of a military interventionist than what the president would like. I think he is, the president, President Trump, is becoming more of an isolationist in his America First theory. And that's basically what George Washington told us that we needed to be. Number one, don't be too party-oriented, and number two, don't be too involved in what's going on around the world. Let's focus on the United States. And I think that is the action that President Trump is kind of leaning towards. Let me see. Excuse me. I finally get to see the ENT Wednesday. Hopefully we'll get this esophageal thing straightened out, and we'll get the coughing taken care of, and some of my problems breathing, all those kinds of things. The pulmonologist says that it's not his, it's not my lungs. It's expanded into my esophagus and larynx and things like that. So we shall see. Yes, I agree, Diana too. Diana too says that Mike Pompeo basically stabbed him in the back, and I have a tendency to agree. He wanted to fire Milley. He should have fired Milley. Milley stabbed him in the back big time, and I think Milley should have been tried for treason. But that's my opinion, So Yes, I agree, Simon Templar. Complacency is going to be a big issue and everything. Status quoism is what I call it. Just, Um, so, do I think they might try to boot old Joe before January and install Kamala? I think it is in old Joe's best interest to stay where he is and not turn it over to Kamala. Um, you know, so and around martial law, we have a total of 19 divisions. If you take a look at reserves, National Guard, active duty, Marine Corps, and Army, we have a total of 19 divisions. Lowest military we've had probably since the end of World War II. It took 25 divisions to kind of keep France occupied in World War II. We don't have 25. France is the size of Texas. So we need a lot more military for martial law than what we have. If we do martial law, it will be kind of like what we did with New Orleans post Katrina. That was a very localized area that was declared for martial law. I don't think it'll be on a national basis. We just don't have the military to do it. Okay, let me get up here. I don't have an opinion one way or the other on review. I'm not enamored. I'm not disenchanted. I take him for what he is. I think that's a lot of wishful talking, Utah Mike. I'd be willing to bet that doesn't happen. Yeah. But then again, I'm not going to bet the mortgage. I can tell you that much. So we shall see. The deep state will do anything. And remember, in my opinion, President Biden has been a puppet for President Obama. I just think that Obama is running everything behind the scenes, and Biden is the guy. Now, here's the problem. Okay. If they want to run Kamala again for a presidential candidate, what we don't want to do is we don't want to give her a record that she can be accused of. So even for a 2-month period, putting her in and her having some sort of a record for those 2 months, which would be no record at all, no change, nothing good can come of it. I think there's more downside than there is upside potential, other than the fact that having the title of the first female Indian / Haitian person. I don't think they'd do that. But it is what it is. Kaylin, good evening. I'm sorry I missed your live last night. So Kaylin does live MRE things at 7:00 on Sundays. Yesterday was a very hectic day. We had, of course, my training at RCIA, and then we went to Mass, and we had some things happening right after church that kept me a little bit delayed. So I came home, and by the time I got home, I just was not ready to sit down at the computer and watch it live. I apologize for that. So Gil's stream is just ending. Thank you for that information. I don't know if anybody's on the pardon list, Utah Mike, and I also don't know if he's going to go after some people. I think that he has changed a lot of his opinions after the shooting attempt, or the shooting, let's call it that. I think that he kind of woke him up, and he's going to be a little bit of a different person. He's not going to be quite as bombastic, although he is a very bombastic person. But I think he's beginning to mellow a little bit, and I think he knows that that's going to be in his favor to mellow out just a little bit. Yeah, same thing. This is that same thing. They're trying to do all kinds of things to establish a long-term thing. There's rumor that they're going to try to get Puerto Rico in as the 51st state before inauguration. That probably won't happen. There's enough votes in the Senate to block that. They're also saying that they want to increase the size of the Supreme Court. But in order to do that and then get the appointments through, that's going to take longer than the 2 months that we have left. And I don't think that's going to happen either. I think there's a lot of chatter that's going on out there simply because people are disenchanted with the results of the election. And, so they're looking for all kinds of things. And I don't think any of them are going to prove to be come down in fruition. 21 years in the Army, and well, of course, things have changed. I mean, we saw Milley and what he did. Of course, Obama's purging of all the good generals and keeping only those who were loyal to him. I would say at least at the general officer ranks right now, probably there might be some leaning in that direction, but I think with the ordinary soldier, the ones who said, I do solemnly swear I'll support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and bear true faith and allegiance to the same. I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the officers appointed over me in accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. Those guys aren't going to do it. That's just my personal opinion. And I could probably drag in a whole bunch of guys that I either had breakfast, lunch, or dinner with today that would tell you the exact same thing. In order to have martial law, you've got to have not only the people giving the orders, but you got to have the people fulfilling those orders. And the people who would be fulfilling those orders are not willing to do that. Yeah, Sotomayor said she is staying. I hope she does in all reality. Same thing with Justice Thomas. Okay, there is some concern whether or not he will retire during the next administration. I think as long as both of them have good minds about them and they're giving their opposing viewpoints, keep them both for as long as we can. No, I agree with you there. I wholeheartedly agree with you, Little Known Prepper, that multiple cells will pop off all at the same time. I think what they'll do is they'll try to take down the grid. And remember that, what was his name? Jonathan Hearn, I think it is, gave that presentation to Congress that if we lose 7 transformers, that the load on the remaining transformers will take the entire grid down. And within 1 year, 90% of the population will be dead from lack of electricity. I think that's the wise way for them to try to do anything to us. So, yeah. He has. I don't know who. I'm acting in shock in the fact that he has. The different inflection of voice there. I'm sorry. I was unaware of that, Caitlin. Do you happen to know who it might be? And yeah, I agree, Simon. I don't see any upside to it. The only thing I see is downside, other than saying we have the first female president, and that would not be. Yeah, I agree there, but I think that was Pelosi that was primarily behind that. Yeah, there is an awful lot going on, and we don't know for sure what's going on anywhere. No, there and every president does a boatload of pardons right their last week. So who will Biden pardon? There's a good possibility he would pardon his own son. That would not surprise me. It would not surprise me if he didn't pardon some of the people in the Justice Department. I think that President Trump will ask for Christopher Wray's resignation as head of the FBI the minute that he gets in, if Wray hasn't resigned already. And I think that that's another one of those that'll probably be pardoned. I think that our Attorney General right now will probably be pardoned. but that's we shall see. We shall see. Okay, Butch Graves, good evening. Good to see you. Let me see here. Okay. Well, thank you. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans. Hollerman, yeah. Thank you, Diana, too. Hollerman. Jonathan Hollerman. You're right. Thank you. See, 72, that's a good reason not to have old farts in government. We forget too much. Dr. Peter Vincent Price. Oh, really? Is that who he chose for Secretary of State? No, it can't be because he's dead. I think Dr. Peter Vincent Price is dead. At least Stefanik. Okay. Wow. I didn't even know of that one. So I know that when I was in the industry, when I was in the electric power distribution industry, there were frequent attacks on substations. They were testing, I believe they were all tests to see what was most effective in taking them out. We'll find out. Okay, let's get into the book. We are at 20 minutes. Okay, so we're working on the Prepper's Workbook. We're working on Chapter 3, Preparing to Bug Out. Before we do that, I want to put something in chat here. I'm also going to add it to the notes. But this is on sale, normally like $21. And right now it's on sale for $12 something on Amazon. I think it's far better than a Bic lighter. It's windproof, waterproof, basically. You get extra flints here. You get a jar of, this side, you get a jar of lighter fluid. You get the lighter. Only thing is it's this color lighter. So it's not the silver lighter. It's a gold lighter. $12.99. I mean, that's a darn good deal. If you can afford it, pick up 3 or 4. That's going to be in a post-apocalyptic world, I'd say that would be a phenomenal barter instrument. So that link that I just put up there is my Amazon link. Just be aware that if you click on that link and purchase it using my Amazon link, then at $12.99, I'm going to make about 25 cents if you make that purchase through that link. Okay, so and that goes right here with this as well, in the fact that we're talking about preparing to bug out. Some of the best checklists that I have seen in any book. It's got a fantastic decision tree, okay, where he's showing all the things, yes, no's, decision tree. If this happens, ask a question. If yes, do this. If no, do that. Great decision tree on when to bug out, how to bug out, where to bug out to, all that kinds of stuff. Later on at the end of this chapter, he does a fantastic job of analyzing contour maps and giving you some advice on that. Okay, Diana 2 says Price testified. So I guess evidently he's not passed away. Okay, Utah Mike. So if you go to it, the minute you go to it, the first thing it's going to do, it's going to show you this one on sale for $19, normally $22. Click on the gold one and tell me what the price is. Because I think the gold one, if you click on it, that's the one that's on sale for $12.99. So check that out. Let me, here, let's do it this way. Let me get up here, Amazon. I'm gonna check here real quick, and I'll do a show tab. This has been purchased 3 times. Okay. I'm sorry. It's $13.50. Okay. So let me get back over here and share screen, present. Yeah, there you go. So Mike has, or Utah Mike has it. $13.50 for the gold one. So great price, great price. Strongly recommend it. That's my lighter of choice. As a matter of fact, if you look at my last Prepper Pantry haul, which was last Saturday, I added another 5-ounce plastic jar, can, whatever you want to call it, of Ronsonol lighter fluid. So the two big lighter fluid companies are Zippo and Ronsonol. Ronsonol, I like it because it's a slightly bigger one. I think this is 4 ounces. Yeah, this is a 4-ounce can. Ronsonol has 5-ounce and I believe it's 9-ounce, 5 and 9-ounce. That's a slightly smaller can. You can get a 12-ounce can of Zippo lighter fluid, but anyhow, I added Ronsonol lighter fluid to my pantry last week. So building a bug out bag for the home. So you should have your location where you're going to put it. So our bug out bags are over in the corner of the garage. Now, remember, I'm 72, slightly incapacitated. My wife is 70, slightly incapacitated. So what we've done is we bought the 2-wheel dollies from Sam's Club. And, you use them for moving boxes and stuff. Well, we put our sleeping bags and backpacks, our bug out bags, we zip tied them to those 2-wheel dollies. So that now all we have to do is drag them. We don't have to actually put them on and carry them and wear them. If we want to have something else, depends on the weight. You want to keep the heaviest things down at the bottom of your dolly. So my backpack is at the bottom, then the sleeping bag is on top because it's not quite as heavy as the backpack. But you want your heaviest items on the bottom, lightest items up on top. And then you can pull that, just zip tie them on there. They're easy access. Along with that, have your evacuation clothing. So remember that your evacuation clothing is going to change with the season. I would probably do it for the current season and the ensuing season. So right now, we would want to have fall and winter in our bug out. And to me personally, I think it would be wiser to have winter clothing if you only have one, have winter clothing all the time, and then have, and that way, you can always be protected against the cold, and you can always take more off for the heat of the summer. So next paragraph, next bullet, additional clothing for anticipated conditions, a portable shelter making tools, sleeping system, fire making tools and materials, water supply, water purification system. Speaking of which, if you notice in my last Prepper Pantry haul, I also had 2 boxes of cone filters. Those are 0.05 micron. So those are good as a pre-filter to get a lot of the big stuff out. So you pour that into another jug, and then you pour that jug that's been pre-filtered into your water purification system. It will make your water purification system last longer. And I think I've got somewhere in the vicinity of 30,000 gallons of purification capabilities. I would like to extend that even a little bit more in case I have more people joining me that I need to take care of. Food supply means to obtain and prepare more. First aid kit, self-defense, family protection, miscellaneous. So he has got like 8 pages of checklists in this book that are just phenomenal. So he's basically on page 72. It's got the bug out bag itself and the backpack. Then he's got essential clothing. If you are going to get a backpack and you're going to wear your backpack as a means of bugging out, do me a favor, make sure it has a waist belt. In all reality, and I'm going to give you this from military experience, okay? In all reality, the shoulder straps are a stabilizer only. You don't want the weight on your shoulders. You want the weight to be pretty much absorbed by your waist. So that waist strap is where you're going to have the concentration of the weight on your waist. And then this just becomes basically a balancer so that you can even put your thumbs inside and just move along. but you don't want to put too much weight on your shoulders. That will wear you out really, really quickly. So make sure it has a good waist strap. Let me see. He makes a list of essential clothing. I think if you want to do good, carry several socks. I mean, I am a sock guy. Of course, in the Army, we live on our feet. And so the one thing I always had was plenty of socks as well as foot powder to take care of your feet. Ha! Bug out bag, backpack, additional clothing. Number one, extra socks. There we go. Yep. Bandanas, shirts, pants, shorts, outerwear, rain gear, hats, all those different kinds of things. Then he has several different ideas as far as your portable shelter making tools, sleeping system. I will tell you, I am thoroughly convinced, and I always carry with me, both of our backpacks have a wool blanket, an Army issue wool blanket. Now that's only 80% wool. It's a blend of something. I think it's polyester and wool, but it's 80% wool. In Germany, I lived with just a wool blanket as well as what's called a woobie or a poncho liner. And I think I've shown you my poncho liner in the past. That thing this year, when did I get to Fuel Station Augsburg? I got to Fuel Station Augsburg in 1977. So in 2027, that woobie that I showed you, that's lost all of its woodland camouflage stuff, was put on my bunk bed in the barracks in 1977, and I lived in Germany during extremely cold weather with one wool blanket and a woobie, and I was a very, very warm. It was nice. It was toasty. So if you can get those two items, a wool blanket and a woobie, you're going to be good to go. Also get something to kind of make sure that you keep the water off of it. One of the problems you're going to have is if you're keeping water, if you put a waterproof cover on your sleeping system, remember that as you perspire, it's going to condense on the inside of your sleeping system. And so that's going to get the inside wet, even though the outside is protected. So you want something that's permeable that will breathe so that the water can go out, but no water can come in. Let me catch up with waste here. So let me see, Kaylin is saying, paddock waist belt is best. My bug out bag has that, absolutely. Simon Templar says lighter is better. Gosh, I can't. I'm afraid of using my mouse, as you all know. Oh, there we go. Okay. So Simon Templar says lighter is better. Travel light, freeze all night. We're going to get into bug out vehicles. A Toyota Tundra is a fantastic one. I have a Toyota Tacoma. So Little on Pepper says they have a lot of snow here, but it definitely gets cold enough to freeze to death if you don't have the right supplies. Absolutely. Yeah, that's my mantra. Clean underclothing and clean socks. That I would rather have that than an extra coat or something like that. Yes, Kaylin. And so we also have a collapsible wagon. As a matter of fact, my daughter gave it to me for Christmas, probably 4 or 5 years ago. My thought process was that after I went through all the water that I have stored here, that I would use it to go to the river, which is about a mile away. And then I had 2 of those Reliant 7-gallon water jugs. So about 14 gallons of water. That's going to be somewhere in the vicinity of 120 pounds, 14 gallons, at about 8 pounds per gallon. If I'm doing my math right. So 8 times 4 is 32 plus 80, 112 pounds. But then I realized that, there's a 250-foot drop down to the riverbed. We're up on top of a hill. So then I got to pull that up top of the hill. So I have the wagon. It's available for us to use, but that's what convinced me to get a rain catchment system. That way I don't have to carry water anywhere. Talks about his bug out bag checklist. He likes a aluminum frame, a pack frame. I have an internal frame in mine. It's not aluminum, it's plastic. Yeah, I agree. Something rigid to keep it pretty much. Oh gosh, Simon Templar, you're in North Texas. Well, I don't. One of the coldest nights that I had here in Texas was up in the Panhandle, a little town called Dalhart on Highway 54, and we got stranded for 3 days in Dalhart due to a snowstorm, and they put us up in the high school gymnasium. But that was back in the 50s. So let me see. Now, is that leg power or is that internal combustion tricycle? Okay. We had a little bit of rain here in Central Texas as well, but I put on my Facebook page, Lake Travis is still 51 feet below normal. And so we are in drought conditions. We're in severe drought conditions here in Central Texas. Okay, so the backpack, things that he recommends that you keep inside of them. I have a hard time keeping food inside of my backpack, inside of my bug out bag, which is why my food container is actually inside the house where it's air conditioned. I'll take that with me and put it into my bug out bag instead of keeping it in the garage. Now, I do keep a fan in the garage trying to keep the air circulating, but my garage will get temperatures up to 120 degrees. So I can't store any kind of foodstuffs or anything like that in my garage. And I can't store them in the car. In the pickup, it gets, internal pickup temperatures will be in the 140s. On a hot day here in Texas. So it takes a while for the air conditioner to get that down a little bit. But, so most of my stuff is going to be kept here inside the house. And I just can't keep a packed with food backpack or whatever you call it, bug out bag in the vehicle or in the garage. Some of the things he recommends: 3 days worth of food. He talks about MREs, dried food, fruit, jerky, energy bars, things like that. He gives a whole list of great things. He also includes what you need for cooking utensils as well as eating utensils and cooking and eating equipment, water supplies, water bottles, all those different kinds of things. Next is his hunting, butchering, and survival gear. So he talks about having fishing gear and his recommendations there. Now, he does not include one. And he includes two that I am very big on. Number one, having a cast net. I believe that net fishing is going to be far more productive than hook, sinker, and line. He also recommends a trot line, and I strongly agree with that as well. You can be doing other things while that trot line's out there catching fish. So I like both of those. There's also another one, it's called a yo-yo. And I have a half dozen of those. But the yo-yo is basically a spring-activated fishing system. So you put a bobber and a weight and a hook on it, and then you put it in the river or in the lake. And then when something tugs on it, then that spring will basically cause it to recoil on its own, and it recoils and pulls all that line that you have stretched out into it. So yeah, that's called a yo-yo, and that's available on YouTube as well. So I strongly recommend, if you're going to bug out, get one of those. That gives you the opportunity to do something else like gather wood, start a fire, or set up a snare or anything like that while you're fishing simultaneously. Anything that can catch your food for you while you're doing another task, I'm all for. Snares, traps, yo-yos, trot lines, those kinds of things. Secondly, anything that's going to mass catch food with minimum amount of energy, like a cast net, I'm strongly for as well. He talks about bug out first aid kit and supplies that you might want to have. He doesn't have foot powder in here. I say foot powder is essential. Then he has means of self-defense and family protection. Very good list of things in here. Although he does have you, I think he's probably got you with, if you're going to be bugging out, I'm not sure I want to carry that many weapons as he recommends in the book. One of the few books I've seen that recommends a cleaning kit, and I also agree with that. He talks about 2 or 3 different kinds of pepper spray. I really want to stay away from too much weight. So I'm I'm not going to worry about pepper spray or something like that that's going to be a non-lethal deterrent. If I'm bugging out, my options are going to be no action or lethal action. It's not going to be something in between. So then but the other thing he doesn't have in here, and let me, what's the name of it? Oh, let me see. Let me check my Amazon account here. Here we go. That's not the name of the one I have. I'm seeing Outdoor Edge, but that's not what I have. What's the name of mine? It should say purchased. Let me find it here. Well, I'm not seeing it, but let me show you the idea of what I like, which is this one here. So basically, this is what I would recommend. And then you can get all kinds of replacement blades and have extra blades, and that would do you fantastic. Let me see here, share screen. Then we want to go to Amazon. I could run to the garage and just get it and show you. But this is, gosh, what is the name of mine? It starts with an S. But anyhow, this is everything you need. It's got gut hooks. It's got skinning blades. It's got carving blades, everything you need. Razor sharp. It's almost like having a scalpel to do everything you need in the field. And all these blades are replaceable, and you can order replacement blades for them, and it's just going to be fantastic. And that's what I recommend. If you're going to be hunting, then recommend you have that. If you're going to fish, then I recommend you get a good fishing knife. My fishing knife is made by Mora Knives. It's these, I think it's Swedish company, Norwegian, but the Mora knives some people say Morakniv, but it's Mora Knives, and but they are fantastic knives. They have a fantastic fillet knife if you're going to fish that I just really like. I haven't seen that much scaling. I think the last time I saw anybody scale a fish was probably before 2000 when I was in Hong Kong. They scale sea bass. I watched them scale sea bass in Hong Kong. But other than that, most people aren't scaling anymore. What they're doing is they're kind of filleting. They're cutting the skin off with the scales on them, so you just get the fillet. Now that does change the taste just a little bit, but it is a lot more effective, a lot more efficient, and you just don't have the skin. All you go for is the fillet. But having a good any hunting knife will get you a good gutting knife for a fish. You just stick it in at the rear end and slit up the belly of the fish all the way up to the gills, and then you can get all the entrails and everything, and they come out very easily. Leave that for wildlife. They love that. And then you've got your fish, your fillet, basically, along with the head. If you want to, you can cut the head off. Asians eat the tail. I don't. But if you want to cut the tail off, you could do that as well. Then you pretty much got a meal right there. That's a fantastic meal. So, but then any good hunting knife will do that. I like a fillet knife because the blade is flexible, so that as a rigid knife, if you have a very rigid knife, you're not going to have the ability to go and actually cut that thin of a fillet. between the skin and the body. Whereas if you have a more flexible knife, then you can put pressure on it and you're going to get down closer to that separation between the skin and the body, the skin and the flesh, I should say. I saw somebody saying something. So I am going to tell you my philosophy, Simon, and I agree with you, and I'm going to add to it my personal philosophy. The bug out bag that I had, I started in 1980, and it was based off of an Alice pack, a medium Alice pack. And I got that at clothing sales when I was still on active duty back in 1980. And so, that was my bag. That was my bug out bag for the longest time until about 1985. And in 1985, I had a brand new Kia Sportage, and it was maybe 6 months old. And I had a little shelf over the back. It was an SUV type of a car. Had a small shelf over the back so nobody could see what was in that back area. And it got broken into. And they stole my bug out bag and a weapon and several other things. I lost thousands of dollars content on the inside of the car, which leads me to another thing. Make sure if you're going to keep your bug out bag in your car, there's a possibility of it getting stolen. Keep an accurate list of all the items in your bug out bag and their replacement cost. I'm sure I lost thousands of dollars on my insurance claim because I just couldn't think of everything and the replacement cost of everything that was in the bag when I filed my claim. But anyhow, that's just a piece of advice. But that happened in 2015, so I felt kind of naked. And there's this thing when I was in training at Dell, I taught managers to make a decision based off of a triangle, and that triangle is at one point you have cost. So is it expensive or inexpensive? Then over here you have quality, good or bad quality, and over here you have ease to access or quick production, whatever you want to call it, quick acquiring it easily, quickly. So you have this triangle. You can only have two of those points at any one time. So if you want it good and effective, it's going to take you quite a long time to build it because you're going to have to get the products and take you time as far as especially if you have a budget. If you want it good and quick, it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's not going to be inexpensive. If you want it inexpensive and quick, then it's not going to be high quality contents. So I felt naked. At that time, I was the director of HR for an electric co-op, and I was driving 90 miles each way to get to the co-op. And I felt, especially in bad weather, that I had to have my bug out bag. So I wanted something real quick. I did a research. I found two that I really liked. I liked the Eberly stock fully packed, and that was right at $3,000, but it was that's where I got the idea. I have no idea what happened. All of a sudden, video pad opened up and it was here and showing. I wasn't even touching anything. But Eberly stock 2 with gunslinger and just fantastic backpack. Where he got the idea for the yo-yos. I had never seen those before, and I saw those inside this Eberly stock pack. The other one I saw that was real good was about, I think it was at the time, it was about $600. And that was from Echo Sigma company. And I liked it enough to where I bought a whole bunch of them and sold them at my store. But I bought that Echo Sigma. Now, let me tell you something. I've had that Echo Sigma pack now for 9 years. I've upgraded, changed out, replaced very little in it. And I look at some of the stuff. I have a whole bunch of stuff out in the garage of stuff that I upgraded from that 1985 backpack or bug out bag that I started with. So over the course 1985 until it was stolen in 2015, which is 30 years, I did a lot of upgrading. I did a lot of swapping out. I did a lot of changing. So the argument most people make for having a pre-made bug out bag is that you're going to end up swapping things out you're going to end up doing the same thing to that pre-made bag that I did to my homemade bag over the course of 30 years. To me, I wanted it good, I wanted it quick, and I paid a little bit of money for it. And I can strongly recommend the Echo Sigma bags. They have a bug out bag, they have a get home bag. And the get home bag is slightly smaller, doesn't have a sleep system than the get home bag. Than the bug out bag. And then, of course, I love the Eberly stock. If anybody wants to give me an Eberly stock, fully, I think it's $3,000, fully stocked Eberly stock to Gunslinger for Christmas, my mailing address is in the show notes. You can send that to me. I might love you for it. You never can tell. But anyhow, means of self-defense, a whole bunch of ammunition. Ammunition weighs an awful lot. I just want remember that. Ammunition weighs a lot. That's the reason one of the primary reasons we in the Army went from the M14, which was 7.62 by 51, to the M16, which was 5.56. You could carry 150% of the ammunition with an M16 that you did with an M14 at the same weight. So just something you got to think about, okay? Bug out bag, backpack, miscellaneous survival gear, a lot of good things. Get a good compass if you're going to be evacuating. Make sure you have good maps. He talks about sunblock, insecticide, insect repellent, all those good things. Great list. He has really got this thought out. I think it's I say he. It's two different Scots. They really have it thought out. They have a lot of good ideas in here. Toiletries and things there that you need there. Building a get home bag for the car to keep in your car. Very good list. Slightly smaller. Of course, it doesn't have the sleep system unless you're like I am, where I was driving 90 miles each way. That required me to have a sleep system because I figured it would take me about 3 days to walk home, about 30 miles per day on average. He talks about equipping your bug out vehicle. Make sure you keep it up to date with your maintenance. Check the ground clearance, how far it's going to go above things and other things. I paid, I'm going to say $1,500 extra to get a skid plate put on my Tacoma, so it has undercarriage protection for the oil pan, the catalytic converter, and everything else, and it's welded on, so that if I have to go cross country and there's a rock in the middle of the road, it's going to hit that skid plate and not take out my transmission or my oil pan or anything else. So that I designed that into my truck. That was part of what I asked them to put on it when I bought it. So make sure you have good ground clearance. Make sure you have four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, if possible. And I will tell you that the changing from two-wheel to four-wheel on the drive is worth it. I absolutely love it. If possible, get a towing package for your bug-out vehicle, and make sure you have extra cargo racks. I love the tie-down system in the beds of the Toyotas, and that's both the Tundra and the Tacoma. It has pre-welded tie-down hookup points. Then it also has a sliding, I think there are 6, 3 on each side, sliding lockable ratchets with a tie-down point on them. So there's probably a total of 12, maybe 15, 12, 14, 16 tie-down points built into the bed of my pickup. Absolutely love it. I do have a king cab, which means that I can throw a whole bunch of stuff in the back that I want to keep cool with the air conditioner on or keep warm with the heater on. Because remember, there's just the 2 of us and 3 chihuahuas. Some other toolkit and equipment that you might want to have with your bug out vehicle: jacks, come-alongs. If you can get an A-frame that you can use along with a pulley system, that would be fantastic. A-frames we found in the Army are really good for getting you out of a bogged condition, so that you can lift the front end up and pull it forward, or the rear end, whichever the case might be. Make sure you have a good toolkit to include an axe, chainsaw, and things like that. Then he talks about bug out retreats, and lots of good information there. Whatever it is, make sure that your bug out retreat is not going to be affected by the same thing that's causing you to bug out. Okay. So if you're thinking about a wildfire is going to cause you to bug out from where you are, don't go to a place that's prone for wildfires. If a flood's going to cause you to bug out, don't go to another place that's in a 100-year floodplain. So just take those things into consideration. I would also I probably would not want to be in a floodplain, period, because with a wildfire, remember that a lot of times that stuff was absorbing the water when there's excess rain. And so now you're going to have flooding conditions if there's a wildfire right afterwards. So I'd probably stay out of floodplains. The more remote you are, the better off you are. Now there's ups and downs to that, okay, depending upon the level of problem that's causing you to bug out. So in a total apocalypse, yeah, bug out as far away from people as you can. You're probably going to be better off with wildlife and everything else. I will tell you, my senior year, between graduated from high school and starting college, I worked for the National Geodetic Society, and we surveyed the west bank of the Gila River in the Gila Wilderness area. And so we had a survey crew of 5 or 6, and we had horses, pack mules. So there were 4 of us who were surveying. One was leading the pack mules to the next overnight spot, and one was fishing upstream. We were catching rainbow trout, Gila trout, chub. We were catching brown trout, brook trout, native. It was unbelievable. We were catching great fish, casting upstream with a MEP spinner on an open reel. And, we caught our limit almost on a daily basis. And it was just phenomenal. When you're away from people in the Gila Wilderness, you're not allowed to go in there with motor vehicles. You can only go in with pack mules, horses, or by foot. So the further away you are from people, the better your chances you're going to have a survivable outcome with wildlife. Let me see. He talks about going to national parks and state parks and things like that. I would probably avoid those because that's where everybody's going to go, and you don't know the quality of the people who are going to be there. You don't know who's there before you. There's all kinds of things that can happen that I wouldn't really want to do that. Okay, where to bug out to if you have no permanent bug out retreat, getting some ideas, mapping your escape routes. And then he says, practice it. Go on weekend adventures. Do it. Study how to read topographical maps, understand the symbols, and how to tell where there's steep cliffs and how to tell where there's slow rising canyons. And I mean, all kinds of things you can tell on a topographic map. So that's pretty much everything he has. Then he talks about closing out the chapter. He says making a family bug out and evacuation plan. So, for example, if you have friends, relatives, neighbors that you want, when you bug out, you all want to get together. So what are the meeting points? How are you going to inform each other when you have problems along the way that you've been diverted or something like that? So come up with a communication system, come up with waypoints, with checkpoints, come up with a plan on what you're going to do for the first family that gets there. How are they going to secure it? How will they secure the perimeter? How will they acknowledge the other people who are good to be there? All those different kinds of things. That's so great. I am really enjoying this book. It's a great book. I strongly recommend you get it. Amen. And in the temple, that's a good thing to have. I asked that we had on my Facebook page. Oh gosh, this was probably 7 or 8 years ago. Guys were arguing over knives. I mean, just arguing over knives. And so I asked that question. I said, "What is the best knife to scale a trout?" And I let the argument go on for about 3 days before I told them, "You don't scale trout." So But yeah, that's a great question, Utah Mike. So you can ask people to find out whether or not they know what they're doing. um, oh wow, yeah. But any good fishing fillet knife. Out Academy has some good ones that I've seen. They look very good, and when I flexed them in the package, they were in a semi-flexible package. They seemed good. I don't know if they retain their edge or not. Maracnif is really good. Mora knives, really good on retaining an edge. Really good. Mine's a fluorescent green handle, so that if I drop it, it basically fluoresces in the water. Anything really, a knife with a 90-degree scale or 90-degree spine. I don't like to use the blade to scale. I would use the back of the knife, the 90-degree edge, and I would use that to scale a fish. But like I said, I haven't scaled a fish now since maybe 1990s. I fillet all mine, so there's no need to scale anything anymore. I just like filleting them with a good knife. You can get a good fillet. You don't have to worry about scaling or anything else. That's true. Very good idea. There is a board that you can get at. I've seen it both at Bass Pro Shops. I've seen it at Academy, but it's basically a fillet board. And what I like, it's really neat. It's a large piece of plastic, and it has kind of like a clip at one end, so that basically what you can do is you can clip that on the tail, and that holds the fish steady, so that basically you can draw your knife down and do a perfect fillet. Just unbelievable. Great piece of equipment. And I'm not going to tell you where I got mine because I really don't remember, but I've seen them both at Walmart and I'm not at Walmart, at Academy and at Bass Pro Shop. I think I got mine at Gibson's. We used to have a store here in Texas called Gibson's. I think that's where I got it. But gosh, I've had it since I was at Goodfellow, and I was at Goodfellow the early 80s, 1981, 2, 3. We got married in January of 84 as I was signing out of that unit. So I got that fillet knife, or that fillet package at Gibson's. I'm fairly certain. Either there or, and Helen thought it was strange when we were dating, I always wanted to go to, there was this one supermarket called Furs, but they had a hunting and fishing section in Furs. So she would go food shopping while I would go through the guns and fishing equipment and everything else. And she'd spend money and I'd spend money. And we shopped separately, but at the same store at the same time. Let me see. Teresa, welcome. Good to see you. Sophie Oxford says he's never scaled a fish, but he has some skinning pillars for catfish. I had a problem with the catfish bone when I was younger, and I was averse to catfish. And we went fishing on my Uncle Harry's boat, and we caught some catfish, and we filleted them and cooked them, and I just didn't get all the bones out. And I got a bone caught in my throat, and that really scared the living daylights out of me. So I had an aversion to catfish for quite a while after that. I just started eating catfish again, probably, oh gosh, maybe the late 1990s. And then Dad and they used to have a place up in Georgetown. They used to have a place called Eno's. And he had all you could eat catfish Friday nights. And so Dad and I would go there together on Friday nights for all you can eat catfish. But and he passed away in 2011. So that had to be early 2000s. So maybe I started eating catfish again about 2000. Could be. I don't know. Like I said, I bought the Echo Sigma, and it meets 90% of my needs. Any bag you buy is not going to be 100%. Any bag you build is not going to be 100%, because as you build it, you're going to constantly upgrade and change things out. Now, let's see. Yes, and it does. The skid plate also protects the catalytic converter. And Tacomas are very famous for having their catalytic converter stolen. Yeah, that's what we had in El Paso. It was 440, 460. The other thing, Helen and I were talking about it just the other day. We used to, in my old Dodge Dart, for example, I had a 64 Dodge Dart. Then after that, I went to a 69 Chevy Malibu, 327. But both of them had the wing windows, okay? And the Dodge Dart had these little doors underneath on the feet, and you could pull those doors open, and then it had kind of scoops, if you will, right underneath the headlights where fresh air came in. So you had air coming in from the bottom, and then you could turn these vents, these wing vents, wing windows, so that you had air coming in from there as well. And that did a pretty good job of keeping us cool, because in El Paso, the humidity is like 3%. So as long as you have moving air, that's what you wanted. And then the Malibu only had the wing vents. But then after that, I had air conditioning in every car afterwards. But amen. Amen. So Simon Tipler says that comms are the weakest link he has. I could not do the ham radio. My brain just couldn't grasp all this stuff for a license. Yeah, it's difficult. I will tell you that much. And in general, which is where you do the HF, is even more difficult. So, for example, there's a lot of formulas. Okay, so the calculation for decibels, okay, there, so you've got decibel is equal to 10 log 10 power maximum divided by power reference equals 20 log 20 times voltage maximum over voltage reference. So, I mean, you got a lot of calculations to do as far as and matching your antenna with your transceiver and all those different kinds of things. General license is really a booger. Extra is even more boogery than that. But the technicians, it can be overwhelming. What I would recommend for you, Simon, is so it just so happens I have my radios right next to me most of the time. So this one is the ham. Okay, so this is the one where you have to program it and set in all the frequencies. And you have to set in the tones and the offsets. So this transmits on one frequency and receives on another. And this one is all preset. So it's got 22 channels, kind of like a CB radio. You just turn to the channel you want. I monitor channel 14 on this one, GMRS. This one you have to program. With GMRS, you do need a license, but all you do, there's no test. Just go to the FCC. I'm making it sound easy. Finding the page to apply for the license is a booger bear in itself. That almost requires as much knowledge as the formulas for getting a general license. Oh, golly. But anyhow, there is a video. Just look up a video how to get an FCC license for GMRS. Pay the $35 and bang, you've got it. And so that's that's this one here in the blue. So my GMRS license call sign is WSED 742. Okay. You are so right. I don't have that in mind. As a matter of fact, thank you very much. I will write that down. That's something I need to take a look at. And make sure you also have a tick remover. If you're going to be walking through areas, especially wooded areas, to have ticks or anything like that, make sure you have them for your animals as well. The only problem, Kaylin, is that trout don't have scales. It's a smooth skin. Great idea. Fantastic. So yes, I keep both a ceramic honer. I keep my leather strop, and one side is pure leather. The other side is green compound, which is a very fine honing compound. Then I have a 250 grit and a 100 and a 1000 grit stone for sharpening. And those are both oil based. So I have oil to go with that as well. But you can use water on that. I probably would like to get another strop and maybe put white compound on one side and rouge on the other. Red is the absolute finest that there is. Green is next to the finest. White is rough. So that's going to be pretty much akin to having a 100 grit stone. But I love my stropping leathers. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about. I think Gibson's went bankrupt, in the mid 1980s, I believe, at least here in Texas. They all closed down here in Texas. I have a friend whose parents owned a Gibson's up in Brownwood, and they ended up closing it in the mid 1980s. Okay, gosh, it's been an hour and 12 minutes. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, people, for taking up so much of your time. I did not mean to do that. I like to try to keep them right at 1 hour. But thank you so much for tolerating me. We did get through the book. So next week, make sure you get a copy of the book. And next week, we're going to be talking about what's in chapter 4. And let me find the index here real quick. Chapter 4 is basic first aid and emergency response. That sounds good. And we were kind of talking a little bit about first aid kits. So the ticks and things like that, that's going to be extremely important. But thank you all for being here. How many we lost 3. I lost 3. But we've got 16 still here with us. Thank you all so much for being here. Let's go ahead and close this out. Well, wait, before we do, how many of you would like to see an open chat Wednesday evening, 8 to 9? I know there's a lot of people who go to church on Wednesday evenings, but would you like to have a Wednesday evening, just free flow and discussions about current events or whatever? Let me know. Okay. Book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and bring you peace. So I've got 1 yes for Wednesday nights. We'll give it a try. We'll give it a try and see what happens. And so don't be surprised if you get an invitation or an alert that we have a chat Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock. So, so Tuck by V looked it up. Gibson's went out in 2003. 4 open still independently. Wow. Okay. Take care, everybody. Thank you for being here. Remember that we're all in this together. Please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other. I really love the way you take care of each other. Diana too does have prayer meeting between 6:30 and 8, so we definitely don't want to start until after 8. So we'll take a look at about 8:15. How's that, Diana? Or was that Diana? Yeah, Diana too. So yeah, we'll respect that. So Wednesday, let's call it. We'll give her a couple minutes to get done with her prayer session, and call it. We'll start about 8:05, and maybe do it for about 55 minutes. Hopefully not too much more than an hour. Remember that we're all in this together, so we can come out the other side together. Please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other. Pray. Pray that we have smooth, peaceful transition, because we all want to come through the other side together. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. And don't forget, it's time to get ready for Thanksgiving. Oh, by the way, to all of you veterans out there, thank you for what you did. And if you had one of, in my opinion, two of the most important jobs in the Army, if you were a cook, thank you. I know you got nothing but complaints, but we really did appreciate the fact that you worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, to feed us, to keep us fed, to give us the best food you possibly could. You put your whole heart and effort into it, and all you got in return was grief from us. I appreciate you. And to the mail clerks, I know you caught all kinds of stuff because everybody expected that package or that letter and didn't get it. I know there was a while there that I expected letters and didn't get them. And you caught the grief for that, but that wasn't your fault. Thank you for doing everything you could to get the mail out to us wherever we were as quickly and as efficiently as possible. To those of you who are cooks and mail clerks, thank you. From this soldier, I really appreciate what you did to take care of us. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.